What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to EXjW Diaries. My name is Justin. So today I have another special interview for you guys. This time not just with one person, but two. An EXjW couple. Now, these two were at the Washington, D.C. protest. You may have heard Will give some of his story and read a poem. But in this, you'll hear from both Will from the United States and from Vicky, who's from the UK. Now, that international aspect makes their story even more interesting because you'll hear how these two people, these two children, grew up in two different countries, an entire ocean separating them, and yet they went through very similar issues, very traumatic issues, issues that they should have been protected from. Now, it's interesting that the Jehovah's Witnesses often say, when you bring up issues like this, well, it's just that congregation, just something wrong with that congregation. But this story really shows that this is not just a local issue. This is an international issue. And it shows even more why the Jehovah's Witnesses need to change their policies. I just don't get why they are so against it, because it makes no sense. Children should not be having to grow up like this. Makes no sense. So shame on them for continuing to uphold policies that enable this kind of BS. So I really hope you guys enjoy this interview. It's pretty intense, it gets pretty deep, but this is the kind of stuff that needs to be talked about because it's happening right now and it's happening worldwide. So this is Will and Vicky's story. All right, so thank you so much, Will and Vicky, for coming onto the channel and being willing to share your story. So I'll start with the usual question of how did you guys get involved with the Jehovah's Witnesses in the first place? Whoever wants to go first can do it.
Yeah, so I was not born in, but raised in. I think my mother found the religion sometime after I was born, and by the time I was 2, I think she was fully into it, pretty hardcore, and that's what started. So everything I knew, my own memory, is being raised in the Jehovah's Witnesses, and until I left at 16. And then it was also a fairly not maybe the most normal Jehovah's Witness upbringing. It would have been a bit extreme. They're true believers, if you will. I think it was. Actually, I'm drawing a blank here.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, jump in with yours. Sorry about
that. So kind of similar. I was obviously born into it. My brother Nathan, there's 4 in my family. I'm the youngest of 4. My parents were actually in the middle of a divorce, and they were getting a divorce. There was actually only my elder brother and elder sister at this point. And one of my dad's colleagues was speaking to my dad and said, what do you think about what's going on in the world today? My dad was going through this really messy divorce with my mum. And I was like, how would you know so much, what's going on in the world? And also this co-worker was a woman, and my dad, being quite chauvinistic, a lot of people are in the Jehovah's Witnesses. How do you know so much being a woman? And so he was kind of taken back, and she said, well, I'm a Jehovah's Witness, and if you want to know more about it, then I can have a Bible study with you. And my dad went ahead with this. So he started having a Bible study, and he secretly started having this Bible study, and now and again was seeing my mum, and he would mention a few things. Now, my brother was actually in private school, boarding school at this point, and he ended up having chicken pox. And so they said, look, you're going to have to send him home. There's no way he can stay here. And so my nana was actually, my mum was living there at the time, said, I've not had chicken pox. You're going to have to go home to Brian and stay there because I don't want it. And so during that time, my mum and dad actually got back together. My mum ended up having a Bible study too. And so it all worked out. They stopped the divorce and then they decided, they both got baptized, were going to meetings, and then they decided to have 2 other children, which was Nathan and then myself. So there's quite a big age gap between my elder brother and sister and then us two. So they were never really in it. They went a few meetings here and there, but myself and Nathan were born into it, and we lived it. We went all the meetings. We no Christmas, no birthdays. We pretty much breathed it. We were doing the daily text every day. My mum was a pioneer. Nathan was a pioneer. My brother, I was a pioneer. My dad was a ministerial servant. So yeah, quite strong in the Jehovah's Witnesses. We used to look after the circuit overseers. We would have weddings at houses, Jehovah's Witness weddings, funerals. We were really quite strong into it. And so, yeah, quite sort of, I don't know how you describe it really. It was intense, let's put it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess, going back to the family history for myself as well, then my mother was the first one in the family to become a Jehovah's Witness, and then convinced her sister to join. And so that pretty much broke up the family. Like, it still is broken to this day. So that was like the beginning of it. And that, again, when I was right around the time I was born, I guess. And then definitely was, like I said, true believer. Like, everything was devoted to Jehovah, if you will. Even like, all the activities that we had written down, the how many hours we spent going pioneering, and like at the time that we were like 14 and 15, what was like 14 to 16, I believe it was. We're full-time pioneering, both of us working as well, and probably I think you were doing over 170 hours a month just in Jehovah's Witness stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it was pretty extreme upbringings. Then you served where the need was great.
I did.
As well.
Yep. When I was 18, I served where the need was great. Not too far away, but they had no one that was covering the territory. There was only one other pioneer from there, and shining example of burning brightly at a very young age. I was eager. I wanted to do more and more, and so I went to a congregation which is only about half an hour from my house, so 17, and that's where I was every day then. Loving it, enjoyed it. It was good fun at the time.
Yeah, and then
Wow. So both of you guys came from pretty hardcore Jehovah's Witness households. That it sounds like.
I grew up in Central Maine as a Jehovah's Witness there, and when I was 12, we moved down to small town, middle of nowhere, Texas, Vernon, Texas, and to serve where the need was great because there wasn't much JW presence there. Very small. Need was great, right? Obviously, there's not much there. And by the time I think I finished 7th grade maybe, and then after that, it was just pioneering, working full time, and homeschooling myself, and no help with schoolwork. Same with Vicky. Like, that wasn't the focus. The world was ending. Why focus on school, right? But so whatever schoolwork I did do, it was on my own, which is, I think it's fairly standard for a lot of extreme Jehovah's Witness families, I think. But yeah, so we were down there serving in Texas for 3 years, where the need was great. I'll get into more of how that story plays out a little bit later, though, because it's a pretty messed up, tangled web. Yeah, we'll get there.
Wow. I mean, already it sounds like a lot. So can you guys back up a little bit and just talk about? So you're growing up as a Jehovah's Witness, basically.
Yeah.
Born and raised into it. Well, for Will, not quite born, but
Yeah.
basically born. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, not quite, but close. Close enough. Yeah.
Yeah, close enough. So, how did things progress then in your going into your later childhood, teenage years? That's usually one of the hardest times for a witness, because I mean, just being a teenager in general is tough. But when you're in that religion and you've got your hormones are raging, you have your own ambitions, but the Watchtower is telling you that you have to do their ambitions. So how was teenagerhood and later childhood for you guys?
Well,
Well, for me, myself, I couldn't stand being at home. It was quite abusive, mentally and physically. And my mum had issues with alcoholism, so quite extreme. So as soon as I could drive, I was out of there. Any excuse. So I would pioneer. I would go and meet people from all over the UK, and it's quite a social thing. So I had a great time as a teenager. I was out all the time, playing hard and partying hard. Obviously, the raging hormones. Had a lot of brothers, but I did find I was the only one who had a conscience. Everyone else would sneak around. They'd be drinking. They'd be up to all sorts, partying. I was the only one who had a conscience, which ended up getting me into trouble, basically. There was one time, and it happened where the need was greater. And yeah, I decided that I would. I said to this boy, I was going to go straight to the elders. It was his dad, one of them. He tried to put me off going. I said, no, listen, what's the point? We're going to die at Armageddon. I don't want to live a lie. I'm not hypocritical. So, yeah, I just said, I can't live a lie. I'm going straight to the elders. And that's what happened. And that was the lead up to the end for me, where I could see that I was being treated different. And yeah, it was the final part for me where I was waking up, basically. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
to play in. Go ahead if you had a question more to follow up.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say let's wrap around back to that at the end. But yeah, let's have Will tell his part.
Okay, yeah. So for me, the teenage years, man, it's a bit of a.
It's different for you, isn't it?
It's a tough one to dissect or to fully explain. I didn't have a normal upbringing at all. Very abusive household. My mother left my birth father when I was around 2, give or take. I don't remember, obviously. I moved, 700 miles away back to her family home up in Maine. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the two of them had some issues. Being in Jehovah's Witnesses didn't help, because he was a non-believer and therefore was the devil incarnate and was going to die at Armageddon, right? So she went and found herself back to a congregation up in Maine, and ended up marrying a fine example of a Jehovah's Witness ministerial servant that was going places. He ended up being my abuser for a decade. At the age of 4, he was doing things that were abusive in a CSA manner. I spent a decade being raped and beaten and everything between. Starting at the age of 4, perpetrated by him, and also I was trafficked by him at a number of ages as well. So it was my experience as a teenager. It wasn't normal. And we were kept very isolated, in part because of the abuse happening at home. Obviously, didn't want people talking. And so I think that also helped limit our friend group, because our stepfather didn't want us having friends that we could get close to. And for me, I know the times the abuse got bad when I was 8. My uncle passed away, And that's when the abuse got bad in our family, because he was the one threat that was left to my stepfather that would have taken care of it had he found out. He was a special forces guy back in Vietnam, and definitely felt safe with him. And but once, yeah, so by the time of 8, the abuse was pretty much on the regular and pretty bad. So fast forward that, that obviously affects your mental state and upbringing. I was kind of on a mission, if you will. By the time I was 13, I had turned my father in for pedophilia, and not a whole lot happened. We did go. We turned. I turned him in. I told my mother first. And then we went to the elders, and the elders asked if she was going to go to the police. She was adamant that she was going to the police, and they did check on this before they met with me with my stepfather. So I had to sit there and disclose this in front of the elders with him there as well at 13. And they were, as I said in the speech, they were quick to shape the Inquisition in a manner that would convict me of partaking in a homosexual act, which was effective. They got me to keep my mouth shut because I was afraid that when my mother took me to the police, which I was afraid to do after the elders beat me over the head with stuff for 2.5 hours. Yeah, and here I was. I thought the elders were the ones I could trust. And here it wasn't a safe environment. So you sent me to the police, and I shared even less. And I was worried if I said too much, I was going to go to prison for some sin and something like some type of law. I don't know. In a child's mind, you just don't understand. You're just a little bit scared, and your whole world's been turned upside down. So anyway, fast forward to that. The headquarters sent a letter back. They did separate for a little while, my mother and stepfather, and they did send a letter at some point saying that my mother had no grounds for divorce because Mark hadn't cheated on her, even though he had been, obviously doing said acts with me. So he was disfellowshipped for a pretty record short amount of time, only a few months, and was then reinstated. In a really sick, weird coincidence, where we went to serve where the need was great in Texas, the lady in the area that was running intervention for child abusers and trying to reconcile families and heal abuse was a pedophile advocate, unfortunately. And so that shaped my experience with the legal system a little bit as in a young mind as well. I didn't have a good experience with that. And she, well, let's just say I could have a lawsuit against the state of Texas today if I wanted one. It wasn't handled well. So I was betrayed from within the organization and from without. And the only safe place I'd ever seen as a kid was with my uncle, who was Special Forces in Vietnam. And when I was around 10, I read a book during summer break that was all about military and like special operations type stuff of people that can overcome these extreme scenarios. And that kind of fed my imagination. And so I kind of put myself on a mission to help take care of my mother and my sisters by the time I was a teenager, because I realized there was no help coming my way. So my teen years was like, it's a rough one to explain. I didn't have a regular Jehovah's Witness upbringing. It was pretty much shaped by a high control group, and just every aspect of life was controlled. There was, when I was growing up as well, that's another point to make about the abuse and the historic nature of it. There's about 10 other kids I know of in the hall I grew up with in Lewiston, Maine, that were being abused, and to various means. And some of us knew about each other, and you can infer from that what you will. So that was one of the reasons that we actually left Maine, my understanding, was that my stepfather was afraid of getting caught, and getting caught with people that he knew and family, because he had a lot of family up there in central Maine area. And obviously, once you know the legal workings of the Jehovah's Witnesses from the Elders Manual perspective, if he gets caught in another state, no one back home's ever going to find out about it. So he's safe. That was one of the reasons, I believe, that we moved where the need was great, was in case it came out, because he thought it would. And of course it did, because I'd had enough fun. Or I saw a possibility of reporting, even though that didn't work out in the short term for the best. But that's what ended up putting me in my mind, my own mission to keep my mother and my sister safe. Once our family was back together, after I'd told about the abuse, and I basically used myself to make him treat my family better. I used myself as a bargaining chip at a pretty young age. And of course, he had been grooming me for years, so it was a combination of both. And so I used what I had at my disposal to keep my mother and my sister safe. And it was basically, I was on a mission in my head. And that played forward throughout my entire adult life, I suppose, going on a mission and fighting for other people. Mm. Yeah, that definitely played out throughout my whole life till today, I guess. But that's the thing about all that trauma, that's what shaped my whole teenage years, was just trying to protect my family. That's it.
And with myself, again, extreme. My dad, I've seen him break my mum's arm in front of me. He's used anything that he can close by to hit you with. He's used food, friends, all sorts to discipline us. He's used us basically as manual labourers. And just not growing up having friends as well, just at extreme in that. He also made us not only study every day, we also had to play 3 different instruments, myself and my brother, half an hour a day on every instrument, and he would sit and watch us on everything, and that was every day. So yeah, extreme in everything.
Yeah.
And it was just like walking on eggshells. You never knew what it was going to be like when you got home from school. So at the time when I could drive, I was pioneer, and I was out of there, because anything was better than being in the house.
Yeah.
And I think that's what made me also pioneer. I mean, yeah, it was just wanting to be out of the house as much as I could.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's interesting that both you guys, so on one side, you both came from a very, as they call it, very spiritual households, from the out,
Yes.
looking from the outside looking in.
Couple of whitewashed graves, right?
Yeah. I mean, the amount of times that my mum and dad actually split up and got back together again, we counted up 19 times. This is before I even left home. My dad was a ministerial servant. He was never an elder. But yeah, we were all pioneers. And it was extreme. It was awful.
So what did you guys think then, growing up, where on one hand you're at home and you're considered to be in this spiritual household? Both of you had ministerial servant, men over your household, but then you have both of you also came from highly abusive households. So how did that, work out in your minds, that you're supposed to be in this religion that's supposed to be, the best of the best, the truth, as they say. You're coming from households where you have appointed men, but then there's all this stuff going on at home.
Well, it's just pressure to be good and to be better all the time at everything. It was quite competitive, really, because I mean, it started from the age of 11, and I just wanted to please please people. I wanted to please my parents, do the right thing. I wanted to please God. I wanted to be a good role model. And so I think from the age of 11, that's when I decided to get baptized. And I did feel pressured into it because it was the next step. It was what was expected of you. And so, yeah, it was pressure really to keep going and right, what's next, and it seemed to be a theme in the congregation, that if one started, then they would say, well, look at that family, they're doing well, what have you got any goals for this year? And so it was being encouraged all the time. Yeah, you always had to do step in talks, and yeah.
Well, looking back on it for me, I think, looking on it in hindsight, man, you can see the constant gaslighting, manipulation, and that was there at the time, though. For me,
I suppose you're never doing enough. I can do more.
Yeah, at the time, I was just trying to survive. The thought of how hypocritical it was, I think, was there, but more in a nebulous sense. But it was just, for me, I kind of remember just trying to survive.
I just never felt like I was doing enough.
Yeah.
And it's still today I struggle with that. So yeah,
self-esteem issues for
massively. Feeling unworthy, that you're never good enough. So yeah, it still affects us now.
Yeah, because you come from these abusive households and you don't know any different. That's the life you grew up with, and so you got the abusive environment of the high control group that we grew up in, and then which has so many issues to go with it. Your whole channel is based on it, right? All of what we're doing is based on it. Then you add in the abusive household.
It's all hidden behind doors.
Right. It's like a tale.
I remember one time. Sorry to interrupt. We used to have the book study hours on a Thursday night, and I must have been a bit cheeky again. Sometimes you'd get away with it, sometimes I wouldn't. And so I learned to rely on my humour.
Yeah.
Heavily, but it was like walking on eggshells. This day I didn't get away with it, and so it was whatever was in my room at the time, which was an iron, and I got hit with an iron. I ran out of the room and locked myself into the bathroom, which got smashed down, and then I jumped out of the bathroom window. So that night the brothers and the sisters were around with a curtain up, and to this day I wonder why all these little signs they never picked up on. Yeah, because there was other things as well, and they must have known. There was no way they didn't know what was going on in that house. Oh yeah, there was another time. I was only little, but this is how frightened I was of my dad. And we'd been on the ministry, and I'd locked the keys in the car door, and I was in such a state. There was no way to get the keys. There was only one set of keys, so I was pleaded with my mum to walk us to an elder's house so that he could walk us home and inform my dad, because I was too frightened for myself and for my mum. And they knew what was going on, definitely. Yeah. So that's what it was like.
Whoa. And you got no support from anybody in the congregation?
No.
Either of you?
No.
No, I got the opposite of support.
To be fair, there was a few sisters in the congregation that didn't have kids. And there was a couple of them that would take me on, kind of like a daughter-mother figure. And they were fantastic with me, and I don't know what I would have done without them, because that was just a little bit of an escape for me. So yeah, without these two sisters, I don't know what would have happened to me, really.
And I had escapes as well. Like I had the side of my mother's family that was local, so my maternal grandparents. They weren't Jehovah's Witnesses, and they were I don't know, about an hour away. So I got to see them more so in the summer, but on a quasi regular basis growing up. And that was a bit of support until I was 12 when we moved to Texas. So I did. It wasn't. So I did have like a few gleaming spots of light that kind of helped me. That showed me some love along the way, like Vicky says. Otherwise,
but it wasn't elders.
Yeah, it wasn't from the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Wow. Yeah. Very interesting that the people that should have been protecting you in the congregation, they call themselves counselors and stuff, and they were not there for you guys.
No.
So question for Vicky, what was it like being a woman in the Jehovah's Witnesses?
Well,
you're looked at as so far low. What was that experience like?
It affects me now because I mean, I think I had a double whammy because of my dad, him being so. My mum never had a job. She never worked. Her job was always to provide for us and cook for us. In fact, my dad wouldn't lift a finger in the house. And so it was quite old-fashioned. So I think it's a bit disjointed anyway. But being a woman, I struggled because, especially at school, I was never ever helped with my homework. My brother, he couldn't read or write. In fact, he had one of the old, it's like an old booklet, how to learn to read and write with the Jehovah's with the scriptures, I think it was. And my dad taught my brother at the age of 8 how to read or write. And I used to just watch him, and he would teach him how to write beautifully. He would spend more time with Nathan, but no, I never got any help. So I did struggle at school. My GCSEs, my exams, I was pioneering at the time. I struggled through, I kind of scraped through, and then my dad gave me a job working for him. He had his own building company. So I did accounts a couple of days a week for him, and that was it. I just worked around the house, clean the windows, I was cleaning, I did his accounts, anything, just to have more control over me. Other than that, I was knocking on doors. So yeah, I wasn't encouraged to go out or get an education for myself. No.
Well, then you got the letter that you've written to headquarters over here as well. That now, if you'd been a brother doing that same.
Oh yeah, I wrote to the Bethel.
If you'd been a man, check that letter out.
Oh yeah, I think I was.
Basically, you were trying to get to London Bethel, hopefully, and knew that you were young and a female, which didn't help her cause.
Oh yeah.
But
interested in 95. So I wrote this. I'd read this article. Bethel volunteers more needed. So I obtained an application form, and I said it was one of my goals for many years. I wanted to honour Jehovah during my youth to the best of my abilities and strength. Being very devoted towards reaching this goal, I'm willing to perform very hard work. And then it's basically saying being very fit and healthy single sister who is a full-time pioneer, always put spiritual things foremost in my life, baptized May the 2nd, 92. And then it's talking about my spiritual growth. I respectfully ask you not to look down on my youth, but I'd be happy, basically, if you considered me for Bethel service. I didn't get a reply back. I didn't even get a reply. I think it was because I was a sister.
Yeah, most likely.
But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely. It seems like if you're a single brother and you apply, you got a much easier time getting them. But if you're, and that's a lot of times why sometimes you see these single sisters, young single sisters, and they marry, these guys that under normal circumstances they would have nothing to do with, but because they have, a certain position, or because they have a better chance of being able to get into Bethel if you're married, they go that way. and and they're stuck. So
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I applied for a few things. I wanted to be on the building committee because obviously I came from a family of builders and I love doing that. And I love a bit of hard work. Obviously, I was brought up with a lot of hard work in the house. And so I was used to it. So it didn't frighten me. So I did apply for the quick bills and I got rejected for that. I think it was because I was a single sister and a big distraction. And then I applied to Bethel, didn't get accepted for that, but I was accepted to go where the need was great down the road.
Yeah, you can go down the road.
That's where I went.
Yeah.
Wow. Jeez. Okay, so let's jump back over to Will. So last we left off, your safe place was with your uncle who was in the military. So now you're looking to go that direction. So where did your story go from there? And how did you?
Oh yeah. So after we'll back up and we'll tell our story how we joined together first.
I'm just thinking we probably need to say how we know each other.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just thinking how our story ties together.
I'll tell the first part about leaving Maine, and then back to that maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. So after 3 years down in Texas, and my mother had gone back to my stepfather, and so it was myself, my older sister, and my younger half sister, which I was 10 years her senior, so she was a big age gap between my younger sister and my older. My mom finally figured out that there was a bad environment to be in. And so one day I think we were about to go to a Sunday meeting, maybe. Instead of taking a left on the highway, we took a right and went from Vernon, Texas, back to Maine again. She got in a bit of trouble for leaving. Like, she was basically like marked, kind of, if you will, and the elders didn't like that she had left, and blah blah blah. But she didn't get in too much trouble for it because of the abusive past. One of the problems we had, though, was the pedophile ring that had existed in the Lewiston, Maine congregation, unfortunately. Had some buddies that were also at the congregation we were going to, and so that didn't help Karen's case. They were all trying to cover for my stepfather and cover up the abuse and everything that had happened. So we had been back in Maine for a while, for about a year. And so I hadn't been with my stepfather. My mother and my sisters were safe, as safe as they could be at that moment. I was really struggling with both the religion and living with my mother. We had different ideals and different ideas of what should happen. Like, I thought she should be working more, not knocking on doors 100+ hours a month. And so we get into big arguments about making money and having a job. And like, basically any money that I was making doing woodworking, helping my grandfather in his wood shop, basically just had to go to help and support the family because Karen, my mother, refused to work. So that caused some pretty big arguments with us, to the point where, and I couldn't deal with it after all the years of abuse. I felt like my job was done. I had sacrificed so much already for my mother and my sisters that they didn't even know about until many, many years later. And I just had to leave. So I told her, look, I'm going to go live with my birth father. He had come up and visited us, me and my older sister, for a week or two that fall, in the fall of '95, I believe it was. And I saw him out, and I was like, you know what? Even though I've been told this guy was a devil incarnate my whole life, I was like, it's preferable to go there and try out living there than staying here. It was just too much trauma in my face every day. And so my mother, she contacted the local elders there in Winthrop, Maine, and they had a meeting. So she brought me there that one night, day or two after I told her that. And it was the day before I was getting ready to leave to Virginia from Maine. And I was expecting something like a Timothy scenario where the elders would encourage me, build me up, and say, you got this, you're a strong young brother. It wasn't like I'd been doing nothing in the congregation. I was pioneering, full-time pioneering. That was 90 hours a month, and always did over the minimum. 90 hours a month, no joke. And back in our day, uphill both ways in the snow, right? Yeah. So what happened, though, is I believe he was serving as the presiding overseer at the time, the elder that was leading it. Instead of encouraging me and understanding that I was going through some stuff. Oh, and to back up as well, I was also giving sometimes 2 talks a week. I always filled in anytime anyone didn't come for a talk, I would fill in whichever meeting hall it was in, or the room it was in, either the main hall or one of the back rooms. Which I really enjoyed that. You got to think on your feet, put together a talk in a couple minutes, and so I was always doing stuff like that. So I wasn't idle. I was there trying to be the best Jehovah's Witness I could. And I figured after knowing everything, because they had a fair idea of the abuse by that point, I figured they'd encourage me and say, yeah, I get it. Tough situation. It's trust in Jehovah and their brothers down there that'll help you out. I already had some issues with the organization by that point, but I was still hoping for a little bit of love instead of just leaving, So instead, what happened is they tried to browbeat me into submission, into staying. And one of the ways they did that was by bringing an accusation of masturbation against me from my stepfather, from the man that used to do that to me when I was 4 years old. So this is what they did. They then used my abuse to try to beat whatever self-respect, self-esteem I had, beat me into submission and not leave, so I wouldn't end up sitting here eventually and doing what we're doing now. That's what their goal was to silence me through some pretty nefarious means. That's at least one of the brothers at the end gave me a hug. I was in tears. I was just sitting there with tears coming down my face for a couple hours in disbelief. I couldn't believe they had just brought a masturbation charge against me from my stepfather, the man that raped and beat me for 10 years. That was their encouragement for someone that was going through a hard time and that needed a change after trauma and trauma in their life. That's how the elders handled it. So I think that, and then that covers up to the point I left as far as some of the big overview there. Guess we need to go back and fill in how the 2 of us got together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even just that is.
Yeah, it's mind blowing, brother. It's mind blowing. Like, who does this? Yeah. Who could sit there and look at this kid crying, like just tears, and just still keep pushing and poking and just trying to make it worse and degrading him and not doing every opposite action of love they could. Like, who does that? Who does that?
Yeah. And it was like multiple elders that you were meeting with, or
3.
Oh,
yeah,
so
there's
like
3
a
of them.
judicial committee.
Oh, it was, yeah.
It was very much like a judicial. Yes, they brought an accusation against me, a charge that officially were trying to charge me with masturbation.
Because on my judicial case, I had to go into detail, but I'll tell you about that.
So that's how they handled it with a brother that was an upstanding example and looked to in the organization and the congregation. Like, our family had done parts on the circuit assembly and stuff like that. We'd serve, we don't do half measures, And it's
we do have a few photos and things to show you if we've got time later.
Oh yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So obviously his family and our family, upstanding examples of how Jehovah's Witnesses should be. Anyway, do you want to take it from here, how they did in Russia then?
Well, I'm assuming, I won't say that. I'm not sure how exactly the process works now, But in the past, for an international convention, you had to send an application into headquarters, which gets reviewed by the local elders. And back in the day, it would have been circuit and district overseer to have some type of input as well, the A or nay type thing. Again, that was different organizational structure, same thing, slightly different details now. So both of our families, now keep in mind, they knew of Vicky's family life and that it wasn't the best. The elders knew that. Yet, to go to an international convention, you have to be approved by headquarters. That's the way it was back, my understanding. And so, in any way, if someone goes to an international convention, you expect them to be a fine, upstanding Jehovah's Witness. That's pretty much the way it is. You realize they've been approved. It's not just any witness. It's a witness that has been the elders have said they're good.
Yeah.
So you had that, her family and mine. Now, keep in mind when my stepfather put the application in to send family to the international convention in Russia in '94, I believe. I think is when they opened Russia up back then for that convention. I had already turned my stepfather in for pedophilia by that point. So when he sent the application in to have a family go to the international convention, the local elders, circuit overseer, district overseer, and headquarters would have known his proclivity for minors. Yet we got approved to send family to the international convention in Russia, and it was my mother and sister that went. And I'm not sure where my half sister was for that time period, to be honest. I don't really recall. But I got to stay alone with my abuser quite a bit. That's a side note. But so what happened is your dad put an application in, and it was your dad and your brother that went. I don't remember where in Russia it was, but so my mother, Moscow, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
So my mother and sister met your
brother and dad.
Yes. And my sister wanted a pen pal.
I wanted a pen pal.
So yeah, they exchanged information, and then
we wrote for well over 12 months. Loved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. Loved getting these letters, and then they invited us over to stay.
Yep. For what, 5 weeks or something?
Yeah. So myself and Nathan, my brother was 17. I just turned 16.
And I was 15.
And you were 15. So we were then flying over to the States for 6 weeks, spending 5 weeks with these guys, and then another week with another family, Jehovah's Witness family in New York. So yeah, this is where we were sent.
Yeah, so that's the crazy thing is that's how we met. And now to back up for a second on that, to fully state this, the local elders knew who my stepfather was and what he was. And they knew that 2 minors were being sent to his house. They knew his proclivity for minors, not just little ones, but ones that were a little larger, like my age. So the local elders and the circuit overseer definitely knew about Vicky and her brother coming to stay with us for months and months before it happened, because it was the talk of the circuit. You know, it was a big deal. It was some great thing, and the local elders loved it because it made them look good. Like, look at who we're getting in. The need is great. Look at this great example.
Status kind of thing, isn't it?
No one bothered. Yeah, exactly. It just made them, but no one bothered to let Vicky's parents know that my stepfather was a pedophile that would have interest in both him and her at that age. So that's how we met, was by a pretty big violation of trust internationally among the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Whoa.
Yeah, and my worry is it's still going on now.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going on now. I mean, but just really thank you for bringing that up, because we often think about the CSA issues in the Jehovah's Witnesses on a local level. You know, that they're not turning these people into the police, and so they can continue to harm kids that are, you know, in their area, not only in their congregation, but also non-Jehovah's Witness kids that are just in the area. But I did not even think about the fact that, yeah, you have this whole brotherhood, this whole unity thing that they talk about, and so you feel like, you
You
meet a
feel
Jehovah's
safe.
Witness that's on the other side of the world, yeah, that they're a
I've
safe
never met
place.
them in my life, so yeah, it was. It's crazy to think that it wouldn't happen now. As a parent, there's no way I would send my, my two kids 4,500 miles across the world to stay with a. Yeah, it's just crazy. Yeah.
Oh, it was just you guys, not your parents.
Oh,
It was just you and
yeah,
your
it was
brother.
just the minors
It
that
was
came to our
just
house.
me and my
Oh, that's
brother.
even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Oh,
it was just the two of them.
In fact, let me show you a picture. There's a photograph here.
Yep.
This is my dad waving us off at the airport. Can you see this?
Yeah. Oh, wrong way. I did the
Yeah.
same thing you did. There we go.
That's my brother. And we're there in our.
Yeah, that was back when you could see in the cockpit. They let him in.
I'm excited. It was my first trip abroad too. So yeah, quite excited kids there.
wow. Yeah, I still gotta recover from that. Just that. That's pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
it's pretty nuts, isn't it?
Whoa.
Like
And to think that,
I mean, it worked out well for me because the second I saw her, I was in love. So
yeah. So okay, so now let's go back. So now you guys met. So how did you get into the army from there?
Oh yeah, so we met. Well, I guess we got to back up slightly. So yeah, we met there, and that was in Texas before I'd gone back to Maine. So we met in 90, or was it 90? The convention was maybe 93. We met in 94.
Yeah, 94.
Okay, yeah. So it would have been what, like the fall of 94 in that time frame. Spent 5 weeks with us. We went across the U.S. We went to Bethel and back from Texas. Quite a big road trip.
Dorset Hotel. We went to the farms.
Yep.
Yeah, Brooklyn. We did it all.
Yeah.
Very lucky.
Yeah. So we were with each other for 5 weeks, and ended up being my first love, first kiss, all that. Yeah, I can't state it enough. It worked out pretty good at the end of the day. Actually, there's this picture of us near the end of our visit. I don't know if that's lined up. She's 16, I'm 15 there. And
you were both for 15.
no, I was pretty large. I had a gym owner of Gold's Gym, Oklahoma City, wanted to sponsor me for the National Bodybuilding Championship at 15. I would have won that year if my mother had let me, but Jehovah's Witnesses can't compete, right? But at 15, I had a lot of anger and a lot of motivation to get stronger. So the weight room was where I put all that. And I was, I think, benching 350, squatting about 500 at 15. And yeah, that was what kept me sane, kept me out of jail probably. I was going to the gym. So anyway, side note there.
Yeah, so we did have a plan that we did again, but life got in the way, and obviously.
And once we went back, yes.
No way of really keeping in touch at that age. We didn't have the money. And I think it was the following year, didn't you move in with your dad then?
Yeah, well, what had happened once we went back to Maine, once I left Texas, I was confident when we knew each other that working full time with the family business, doing carpet cleaning and whatnot, I was confident I'd be able to save up enough money to get out of there once I felt my mother and sisters were a little safer. That didn't work out because once we went back to Maine, I didn't have the same income flow, and so I couldn't save up enough money. And yeah,
So what made you do the army then? What was it?
Oh, so joining the army. So that's where we're going back to now. Is joining the army. Yeah. When I moved in with my birth father at 16 and went back to public school after working full time and schooling myself for a few years. So that was a really weird experience on top of being so naive and not understanding how the world works growing up as a Jehovah's Witness, let alone all the other abuses involved in my life as well. So that was a good transition, though, as far as getting me to help understand the world a little bit. I had 3 years where I went to school because, of course, I didn't keep up with my schooling as much as I should have. So I ended up, I think, graduating at 19 instead of 18. And I was going to college. I was going to the engineering program at a college in Richmond, and ended up having to testify for in a court case where my stepfather was trying to get visitation or half custody or some type of unsupervised visits with my half sister. And so I went up and testified in a court case in Lewiston, Maine about that, where the court sided with the pedophile, and the pedophile advocate from the state of Texas that was also flew up there to testify on the pedophile's behalf. So that was fun. A bit traumatic. I ended up dropping out of school that semester. And then my mother was, she was getting sent to jail for not handing my half sister over to the pedophile. So she got hidden with some family friends. My half sister did. And my mother went to jail, and I went into the Army to acquire a skill set that can be useful for protecting my family. Yeah. So that's how I ended up in the Army. It was a dark road. It was basically, I was actually my first command. I shouldn't talk about that shit. Yeah, it was a dark road. I don't need to talk about some of it. But I was definitely going down a path of looking for, I was going to sacrifice my life to keep them safe. It didn't matter if I went to jail the rest of my life. I was not going to let him have access to my sister ever again. So, but that situation ended up resolving itself. But that's the why of why I went into the Army, was to get the skills that I needed to protect my family. And hopefully, yeah, anyway.
Well, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. And I mean, and yeah, just seeing that picture of you at 15, most 15-year-olds don't have that much muscle on. So, I mean, it's obvious that throughout your childhood, you had to put yourself in a position to protect, to be the protector.
Yes. That's my whole role. Yeah, that's what my whole life was. Yes, sir.
Jeez. And here you are in this religion that's telling you that, they're there for you to take care of you and your family. And, here you are, you got to do all this stuff to take, that's crazy. Okay, so let's back up now to Vicky's side. So you were saying that you earlier you were saying that you had turned in this guy to the elders.
Eldest son. It was an eldest son who
that's right. Yeah, elder son, even more.
Yeah. It wasn't consensual. And I was I did go to the elders the very next day, despite being begged not to, but I couldn't live with myself. I thought I was going to die at Armageddon. I couldn't live a lie. It's pointless to me. I'm either in it or I'm not. And so, yeah, it was humiliating. I was reproved, and I was told that I would have to go back to the congregation, back to my parents' congregation, that I was no longer required there. The son, I don't know what happened to him. The father, the elder, I think he got removed. But it was so humiliating, the fact that I was sent back to the congregation, and it was the way that everybody just ignored me, and I had to sit at the back of the hall. No one would speak to me, and it was humiliating, and I felt ashamed, and that was the start of it, really.
Was that a public reproof or private?
Yeah, it was public. Yeah.
And they announced your name in the congregation that you were in for Need Greater, or in your home congregation too?
No, not in my home one, but everybody knew by this point why I
Oh
was
yeah.
home. It was horrible. It was embarrassing, and no one would speak to me. So I'd lost all my friends. Despite it was only reproved, you know, I
Mhm.
wasn't disfellowshipped or anything, but no one would speak to me, and so I was basically at one level. You know, everybody was wanted to go on the doors with me. I'd be invited to people's homes and have meals, and then all of a sudden I had nobody apart from my family that would speak to me. And so yeah, it was awful.
Yeah, that reminds me a lot of my own experience actually. My stepbrother got reproved, and we were invited to all this stuff, like you said, all
Yeah.
the love
Well,
bombing and
it's a
everything, and
yeah, yeah,
then it's like you get soft shun, and it wasn't even me or my sister,
yeah,
but just because, and it's not even disfellowship, it's just reproof, but because of
yeah,
that, our whole family was just,
yeah. And
now
not
nobody
just
wants
me, they
anything to do
treat
with
my
it.
whole family like it as well. So
Hmm.
then I
Oh,
was
same thing.
thinking, it made me look at them, and I was thinking, well, I know they've done that, and I know what they've done, and I thought, and all the times I've seen this, and they've never ever admitted to anything they've done, and it was stacking up, to be fair. And then I slowly stopped going to the meetings because I just kept seeing more and more of it. My eyes were wide open by this point, how I was treated, and also I could see the difference. That how my home was, my family home wasn't normal, but it was only because I was getting out into the real world that I could see, actually, that's not right. That's not how you treat people, and that's not a loving religion. And it was only because I wasn't kept so busy in the religion that I was now having my eyes open to what being, you know, it's not like that, the real world at all. No. So yeah.
That
Wow.
that
Okay.
that makes me think of a side note. One of the things that really got me, especially in Maine before I left, was again, it's full time pioneering up there, and I looked a lot older than I was, just because of my size and whatnot. And so I was like a number of studies I had with people, and one of them, younger guy that didn't have any friends, and just wanted a friend, and asked one day, like I was always going over his house doing a study or whatnot, and he asked me, I could come with him to go grab some stuff and need parts for his car or something up the road a little ways, like just something a normal friend would do. It wasn't anything crazy, like anything weird. The dude thought I was his age as well because he was in his young 20s, and um, I remember asking my mother about it, which was embarrassing, so I couldn't answer him at the time because I didn't realize he thought how young he thought, or how old he thought I was. So I was like, kind of like, oh, I got to ask my mom, right? But anyway, side note. Um, but I remember thinking about the situation, and he wasn't asking to hang out, do anything worldly. He's just looking for like some time as a friend. But if you're a Jehovah's Witness, you can't put that time in like a Christian of the Bible would, or like Jesus would. You're not allowed to associate with him at all. And I'm like, how is
Mm.
this doesn't add up with what we're told in these books, and then how it plays out with our practices. These two things don't align.
Mm-mm.
They don't. It's not the same thing. It's two different worlds. And so it's like you have this dichotomy of holding these two opposing ideas in your head, which leads to like key feelings of gaslighting and cognitive dissonance, and like that was one of the that. So I did just her saying that stuff made me think of that memory, how like the stuff that bothered me a little bit when I was in actions versus words in the Jehovah's Witnesses religion.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of hypocrisy that goes on.
Yeah.
Interesting that you can see that even at that age.
Yeah.
So that's a good segue into how did you guys end up actually waking up and freeing your mind? Because some people can leave, but their mind is still stuck in. So how are you
Yeah.
guys able
I
to
think
wake up?
for me, it was I tend to go by feelings, and it was the way I was treated, and I thought there's no way this can be the right religion. I've seen how my family are with each other, And it was just like they were pretending to be this loving Christian family. We were perfect on the outside, but when you look at it, no, there was no love there. My parents are now divorced, and with all the kids have had issues really with relationships. None of my family speak to me now, but yeah, I think that was the start of it. I could see how it was just a hypocrisy, and the kids in the congregation, they weren't speaking to me. I could see that they were just being bad. And when I did call them out, they actually barefaced lied to me. So that was it. I stopped going from that point. But it was quite difficult because I worked for my dad. So I had to kind of slip away little by little. I was working for my dad a couple of days a week, but I started going out a little bit more. And then I thought I need to get a job because I was literally working for nothing. So yeah, I got myself a full-time job, got in with the wrong crowd. And then I thought, I can't be doing this anymore. I don't want to bring reproach on Jehovah's name. And so I decided then that I would write a letter of, I was basically resigning from the Jehovah's Witnesses. And that's what I did. I thought, I can't be two-faced, don't want to be a hypocrite. And so I resigned. And at that point then, my parents packed up all my stuff in bin liners and asked me to leave the house. So I had nowhere to go. I turned up at a boyfriend's house after we'd only known each other a couple of months. I don't know what the heck he must have thought. What the hell? I got all my belongings in bin liners, and that was the start of my new life.
Yeah, you didn't even have a suitcase.
I didn't have a suitcase. Yeah,
trash bag, something.
I had nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Whoa. So they just kicked you out as soon as you disassociated.
Yeah. And my dad actually didn't speak to me for 8 years. He banned my mum from speaking to me. Yeah, my brother didn't speak to me. It was horrendous, really. I felt very on my own, and luckily for me, I had a couple of school friends that I'd known from when I was about 7, and so they were quite supportive with me, but I only kind of started seeing them again in my 20s. So but I still see them now, and they've been like my family, haven't they?
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
What about your other siblings that weren't really raised?
No one speaks to me. No.
Whoa.
No, my brother Nathan, he's an elder. We were very close because there was only about, I think there's 22 months between us. We pioneered together. We were in school together. He was in the year above me. We were best friends. I absolutely adored my brother, loved each other. Everyone thought it was a bit odd, but it was just because we were Jehovah's Witnesses. We'd even do the daily scriptures every day in school. He would have a briefcase, he'd have his Bible in there, we'd do the daily scriptures together.
Proper JW nerd, huh?
We were really nerdy. And so, yeah, he's broken my heart a little bit because he's not spoken to me for, I can't even, it's a couple of decades. Yeah.
And then because of his influence as an elder, and because he kind of is the patriarch of the family now, he convinces your other brother and sister to not talk with you as well. And then also, you know, there's been times where your mom tries to reach out more, but it's her brother that beats her into submission and gets his own mother to deny her own instincts, lacking all natural affection.
Exactly. I mean, my dad's now passed away. Nobody from my family spoke to me at my dad's funeral at the local congregation. I've had 4 blood transfusions, nothing. I had breast cancer 4 years ago, nothing again. So no.
Yeah, they've left you for dead.
Wow. Jeez. Jeez. Okay, what about you, Will? How did you end up waking up and leaving it?
One of the things that definitely helped convince me was um, all of the talks I was doing. I was, they tell us at first I remember doing my first couple of substitute talks and just using some of the basic books, like the insight books or whatever the main couple were we used at that time. And as I got more practice and started knowing those books more, because I do kind of devour information at times. And so it was all the older books in the library that helped me start seeing chinks in the armor of the religion and how it played out versus what it was supposed to be. And then I would say that the elders, obviously, when I was leaving, that was another huge chink in the armor because I figured I would at least try it out down in Virginia. I was going to go to at least a few meetings. I didn't believe, but you're so programmed after all those years, still thinking that what if it is true, but still a lot of stuff wasn't adding up. Once I left, had that another negative experience with the elders, like I said, I went to a new hall down somewhere near Richmond, Virginia. Can't remember the exact location. But I didn't like what I saw there. I saw the same attitudes of the Jehovah's Witnesses looking down on everyone else in the world. There was a Jehovah's Witness kid that was in my high school, and hearing her comments the first time I met her at the hall, the way she talked about all of the kids in her school, it couldn't have been, it was the furthest thing from love you ever, like, it was shocking to me. That was kind of helped do the final nail in the coffin for me, was to hear a few of these younger JWs in the new hall near Richmond, the way they talked about worldly people with, they missed the whole point of the scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
So that was that was kind of what did it between all the abuse. And then the biggest thing probably was a lot of the research. And there was actually a point when we were back in Maine, for that year before I left the Jehovah's Witnesses. So I would have been 16 at that point. There was an article that came out. I can't remember which one it was. And in the Watchtower article, it referenced a scripture or something, but it did it wrong. Like, it was blatantly wrong. Like, I knew I had done enough research, especially around that book, giving talks, that I instantly was like, this is what's in the Watchtower is wrong. I showed it to my mother, and a little bit of disbelief and not sure what to do, because I was like, I'm no prophet, like I'm just a kid. And I know reading that. And then I turned to the Bible and showed her in the Bible where what was written in the Watchtower was wrong. And she got a little bit worried, and she said, "You cannot tell this to the elders." That was a big red flag. I was like, "Wait, why can't I share this with the elders?" Like, what do you mean? Well, so I didn't understand then, but I know now why. We all do, because there would have been some crazy apostasy charge or running. No, it would have been running ahead of Jehovah, right? Like running ahead of Jehovah's chariot. But if this magazine is from the governing body who claims to be speaking for God on earth, then it shouldn't have mistakes in it that a 16-year-old kid can point out after reading it once. So that was definitely a big change. A lot of it goes back to education, though. Educating on these old, even with Watchtower's own publications, you can help disprove them if you look into it enough. I think that was, I think that covers that part of the story.
Well, yeah, for me, it was just, I could see the nepotism, the hypocrisy from an early age, and the fact that it was just all covered up. Yeah.
Like, for me, even some of the abuse stuff didn't even quite factor into a lot of it for me, because it was so, like, either compartmentalized in my brain, or this had just happened. It just was like, it wasn't the things that would normally wake up a normal person in society that hadn't gone through an experience like all three of us. Like, a lot of stuff just doesn't, your normal is not society's normal. So it's interesting sometimes seeing what it is that can wake you up to things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. As witnesses, there's a different normal that
Yeah.
you apply to your life. That
So
under normal
extreme, isn't it?
circumstances. Yeah, yeah, it
Really?
is really. It
It
is.
is, yeah.
It is. Because in normal society, this stuff just would not fly.
Right, yeah, a
And
normal
if it
kid
did,
wouldn't do these. Sorry, I interrupted. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. And if it did happen, you have so many organizations and law enforcement and just people that are, it's their job to help you out,
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, like young kids fit pretty much, they're gonna trust a police officer. But we're taught, all of us taught growing up, that you work for the government, they're bad. If a Jehovah's Witness can't be a police officer, then surely there's something wrong with police officers, right? Isn't that how a little kid's mind kind of operates?
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. Yeah, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So how did you guys end up meeting back up again then?
So
Yeah.
during it was 2020 and it was lockdown, wasn't it? It was just coming out of lockdown.
Yep.
And
yeah, so I should give some backstory on how we got. That's like 25 years in between.
Yeah, go on.
I guess both of us, we met up again 3.5 years ago, using Facebook, actually. Found her on Facebook. And
funnily enough, I've never actually changed my name because I have been married twice. But I always kept my name as Victoria Tara Jones, just so one day I hope that he might find me. And you did.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, took you 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's actually the funny part of the story. So it took me all of a couple seconds to find her, and I did look you up a couple years before I contacted you, I think, and just saw. I thought you might be out of the religion, so it gave me hope, but I was too scared to say hello. But anyway, so I ended up messaging you back in 2020, I think it was.
Yeah.
And so in between that, yeah, we both life went on for us. I was in the Army. My time in. I was stationed up in DC at first. My first duty station was at a Presidential Salute Battery as a member of the Honor Guard in DC. My platoon, we were first responders at the Pentagon crash site. I've also, been deployed downrange, been in combat. Actually, I got medically retired from the Army back in 2011 after a friendly fire incident in Iraq that happened February 17th of 2009. So it was a couple years after that. I got medically retired after the treatments just weren't working. So, and then I spent the next 10 years kind of just surviving. Again, I had a bad relationship I was in. Things didn't work out well. I don't need to go into that stuff at the moment. So as we got my ex, I was married twice before as well. So it's a second ex, I guess. Stuff just didn't work out with her, so we're split up and everything. And then it was a year or two after that. And I'd been working on trying to do like Jehovah's Witness stuff, get involved, learn more to see where I could help out type thing. And so that kind of had the JW stuff on the mind. And then, obviously got thinking about Vicky a bit. And sorry. I just went blank there as I was in the middle of talking. So yeah, we met back up through Facebook. That's what it was, Messenger. And then, again, both of us have a couple kids now. And so it's a bit of a wild ride at the moment, like just being together, because we can't be together all the time at the moment. So it's
we're working on it.
Yeah, we're working on it. And
but yeah, we want to get more involved with doing what we can to raise awareness and especially with the Shunning and the CSA stuff.
Yes, definitely.
We feel like we kind of give each other strength,
100%.
and so it's good timing, I think, for us both.
That's all. Yeah, it's the crazy thing is to try to explain what Vicky means to me. Like when I met her and got to know her as a person, I saw a possibility in life I'd never seen before in my years growing up in the house I did. It was like stepping into a fairy tale or something like that. But man, talk about at the same time, you finally it's a safe place, right? And so we did do a little bit of healing together even when we were kids, and now since we've been back together, it's almost like we picked up where we left off, where like it's been so hard, but it's also been an exponential growth story for us doing it together, because it's love. You understand each other. You're both willing to. It's everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then being able to use our story as well. Like, what's the point of all of this if we can do some good in the world with it as well? And so, like, for me, like, being safe enough to actually heal from some of my traumas, like Vicky's had you've been at my side as I've gone through. You see me going through flashbacks and repressed memories, and to her credit, she stuck with me. It felt like it was killing you. I'm sure it wasn't fun at times, but I think that's the power of our story as well. Is like both of us. And that's not just me. That's Vicky as well. We both done this same thing for each other, of just finding being a safe place for each other, in a refuge in the storm, if you will. And then now that we're finally starting to heal, we want to live a life of service to help prevent what's happened to us to not happen to others. Like, don't get me wrong, we want to just disappear into the countryside and never be seen again. That's what I would like, but we got work to do first. We got to help out. We got to protect kids. We got to do stuff like get mandatory reporting passed, so situations like ours don't happen. There's no excuse for minors to be sent internationally to a pedophile's house. And
there's no reason also for a decision that I made when I was 13 to get baptized. It still haunts me to this day. Yeah. They should just, abandon that for starters. If you're out of it, you're out of it. You need to just stop the shunning. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you go into being held to a marriage contract at 13.
Well, yeah, exactly. You can't get married at 13. So why can you make a lifelong decision? It's just for a child to make that.
Yeah. Can you go into some of the shunning experiences that you've experienced even to this day after all? Because you were 6. How old were you when you fully left, Vicky?
I was 19.
19? Okay, so 19. After all these years, 20 plus years, and you said you're still experiencing shunning. So can you give some examples of that?
Yeah.
So I'm a beautician, hairdresser. I've had my own business since my little girl, and some of the witnesses have used that to have the nails done or the hair done, and they've just not said anything. So, and it's been nice catching up. And so I've had a couple of regular Jehovah's Witnesses come to me over the years. Nothing recently. We're talking years ago. Even so, they spoke to me then. Same person I saw last year, but because there was other witnesses there, she turned her back on me, didn't she?
Yeah, sitting, she literally turned her back on you at the table.
At the table.
The whole table of friends and family.
My children were there.
And this lady turns her chair to turn her back to Vicky at this table. When she was fully willing to go save money, because her rates were good for EXjWs, it's okay to associate if she's saving money, but if it's in public and could be seen, apparently it was not kosher.
Yeah. So that was last year. My kids saw it. I was in tears.
Yeah, I was a bit irate about that.
Yeah, but other people that knew me saw it as well.
Yep.
And so it was a bad witness all round for the
was.
Jehovah's Witnesses, because they're like, why is she ignoring you? And like, oh, she's a Jehovah's Witness and I'm not now. And like, they're kidding me. And yeah, they were like, that's disgusting. So I was quite happy to, let everybody know that was the only reason, because I'm not a Jehovah's Witness anymore. Also, at my dad's funeral a few years back, my whole family sat at the front of the Kingdom Hall, and I wasn't welcome anymore. They didn't even come up to me, and so I sat towards the back. No one spoke to me. No, so that was another time. That's obviously, I didn't go to the wake, wasn't invited to that. Also, when my dad was dying at hospital, that was very awkward, because the only thing that my brother did actually say to me was, when are you coming back? I'll be the best uncle to your children. Only if you come back, though.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing he's ever said to me, really. I'm trying to think of in town, when I walk through the town locally, they'll shoo me away if I get near to them, or if I want to speak to them.
Well, there was a couple of instances in town, and it's like you're over in the UK here, and so it's like it's for those from the US. It is like it's like a little market town. You can literally walk into town and get groceries and stuff for the day. It's like a really cute little picturesque town in the English countryside. So you can, like, we just, if you want stuff, you can literally just walk into town and do so. But they have the main square where people gather, and they have people, buskers playing, or, it's like old timey town square type thing. And Jehovah's Witnesses have a cart there on a lot of market days. And one of the ladies there is someone that you grew up with. And so I was curious one day to talk to her, and I wanted to see if she would lie to my face and shun Vicky, or if she could actually, have a conversation. Because I'd gone up to the witnesses locally. When I see the carts, I'll talk to them. And I let them know who I was and that I used to be a witness. So here I was standing there as the next witness, and they were talking to me. And I was in the army before and stuff, so obviously we're not in good standing. But they were fine to come to be talking to the American and have some conversation. Then at one point, Vicky was nearby, and I said, "You see that young lady over there? That's the love of my life. I do believe you know her." And this lady, oh man, she's a terrible liar. She didn't hide it too well.
Look at me like.
And then, like, pretend, you could tell she was like trying to like not say anything, but she would not acknowledge Vicky. And there's pictures. We got pictures of the two of them like dancing in her bedroom together, like when they were like teenagers and stuff like that. Like, not we, you have.
Yeah.
But like and they're gonna still play these stupid games of pretending you're dead to your face all these years later, while you're talking to someone else that's already told you that they disassociated and are basically an apostate. But you're not going to talk to Vicky, the person you grew up with, and show some love there. Another time we were in town as well, and this is where one of the ladies shooed you away. Like, Vicky was talking to her a little bit, like just trying to like talk to them a minute, say, hey, why don't we talk about this? One of the things they had on their cart was Jehovah's Witnesses mental health. It's an issue from like 2019 or something.
Yeah.
But you can see the whole mental health part, right? That I don't know if you need to put a disclaimer up because we showed that to you or not. But the funny thing is, like this, so here Vicky is talking to this lady saying, what about shunning in this? You don't talk about mental health.
And my experience of what it's done to me in my life.
Right. So
and
Vicky's
how it's made me feel. And
yes.
I was obviously getting quite upset, I would say, emotional. And she just didn't have the time to speak to me. In fact, she started shooing me away, didn't she?
Yeah. At one point, Vicky went to talk to her, and she was a nuisance little child. The lady went like that to her. It's like, are you kidding me? Now, if you claim Christ, right? If you're a Christian organization, like, or want to follow the Bible, like, what's the example set out there? So, like, if let's say if you really want to be out in the town square showing people God and the love that exists and that God has for everyone and people, then instead of shooing someone away that has had issues because of your organization, if you were really a Christ-like organization, wouldn't your answer have been, I'm sorry, like I'm so sorry for what you went through. Like, that's horrible, but that's not me. What can I do in this moment right now to show you that I love you? How can, like, like some type of empathy, some type of message of hope, some type of love, not shoo you away like you're a nuisance child. That's the shunning and the way they treat it's been out like decades later. And every time we walk through the square, there is a little bit of tension. We see the witnesses, it is an irritant, and it is a little bit triggering. Like, so there's like, we can't even enjoy market days half the time without worrying if we're going to see the witnesses, which...
Yeah, and they work in various shops,
Yeah.
so, and I'm local, so yeah, they
Yeah.
still shun me to this day. Like,
Yeah, and they have a cart on their square talking about mental health while doing this to one of their locals, someone they grew up with. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, yeah. Now, speaking of growing up, here's a question for you guys. Probably more so for Vicky, since you stayed in the same area. But does it ever affect you that, here you are as an adult and your friends that you have, they have no connection to your child? So to say it a different way, some of my friends that I've made now, they have other friends that they have known since back in high school, since back in elementary school. For me, I don't have that. All my friends that I have as an adult are friends that I've made as an adult, because the friends that I did have that I grew up with are all shunning me. So do you ever deal with feelings, the bad feelings dealing with that?
It's a little bit different for me, because I've been very lucky. When I was very young, I had a couple of schoolmates, and I think they just felt sorry for me. They knew it was a bit different. And this was at primary school. So I've known 3 of my friends still today, my best friends. I've known them since primary school. So I was about 7. I could never see them outside of school. So during primary school, it was just at school. Then when I got to high school, we would fake having a Bible study. That happened twice in the 5 years of high school. They came round, I'd have to pretend that I was having a Bible study. And that was the only couple of play dates I ever had. And then when I left school, obviously I was fully knocking on doors. I was going where the need was greatest. So I lost touch with them. And it wasn't until I came out when I was 19, I just bumped into one of my friends again. They were like, "Hey, how you doing?" No, and I said, "Oh, I'm not going to meetings anymore." So we kept in touch from that point. So yeah, I am quite lucky. They don't have any idea what it was like for me as a kid. Like, recently, I've started talking to them about it, because they've heard Will's experience and they think, "Oh wow, God, that was extreme." And I'm like, they don't really understand how extreme it was for me, because I've never spoken to anybody about it.
Yeah.
I thought it was normal because I didn't experience anything else growing up. But yeah, I've been quite lucky in the fact that I do have these friends. But yeah, I did struggle when I first came out of the witnesses, because I got into a job, and I was extremely naive. The job that I was working at, it was a really dodgy company. So they were smoking, they were doing all sorts in the bathroom. So I got in with a really dodgy lot of friends, and that didn't go too well for 6 months or so. I just didn't know what I was doing in life. Well, and I was struggling. I was looking for friendship, but yeah, I didn't really have that until later on. I think I was 21 when I settled at James Walker at that job, and that's where I got a few good friends that were my age. And again, these people that I worked with back then, I am still friends with. So yeah, I have been lucky. I've got some good friends, but yeah, it's all been really in my 20s I've made them. apart from like a couple of school friends. None of the Jehovah's Witnesses I've stayed in touch with. No, not a single one.
Okay, so one last question for you guys. What advice would you have for people who are currently going through the process of waking up, going through the process where they're just starting to question the witnesses? What advice would you have for them?
That's I think we touched on it a little bit of making sure that you take the time to grieve yourself is part of it, because there is a lot to grieve. There's a lot of life that was lost and things that were stolen from us. But then, turn that grief around and being of service to others. If you're just getting out, like explore the possibilities of what's possible. Your imagination is your limit. Like it's the reason, for instance, the reason I created my YouTube channel was to show a little bit different way, because I did watch the Jehovah's Witnesses for a number of years before I made a YouTube channel years back. And I liked seeing the car crashes and the hall crashes and the way different conversations with Jehovah's Witnesses, but I wanted to also show a different way to do those, but also a different way of living, because I realized like I've been able to have a lot of experiences that a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses haven't. But it just, putting yourself out there and get yourself stable, definitely branch out, build a network of friends that you can trust. This like definitely build and like get a 3 to 5 type thing going, where 3 to 5 people you can trust. Like a lot, my understanding is in general that you're the amalgamation of your top 3 to 5 friends. So choose those carefully. Like hang around with like-minded people. If you want to go experience life, then actually go do it. Like join different little groups and little outings and go find people. And as far as for me, for bringing healing after all of it, I think once you get your own house in order a little bit, in particular, you can do it along the way. Just being of help to others and paying it forward. Well, that's what I was saying about my YouTube channel I'd made, was just like I showed a little bit different way to do a car crash sometimes, or I might have told some of my experience and some of all the different crazy jobs I've been able to do, and that's what I would say is go live and experience life, and yeah, that's one of the biggest things, is because you don't live when you're in the Jehovah's Witnesses. You think you're living, but you're not. You're in a cage and you can't even see it. And so, like, spread those wings and just go. Right? Like, don't look back. Just go live. Go get some life experience, and then you can use it all later down the line. Yeah. Anyway, what do you think?
Yeah, it's the same. And don't be scared, but don't be scared. Just go and live, and also talk. The more you talk to people, get it out your system. And that's really helped me, having a few good friends that I can talk to. A bit like counselling, really, to get it out.
That's a good point about the counseling is, finding a cult expert is great, or finding a therapist you connect with is great. But man, it's also difficult to do. I've tried so many times over the years, and I know I could do better. But at the end of the day, some of what's helped me the most is just having peers you could talk to, having Vicky, or having guys, a few of the guys from my past that you can trust, and
you don't feel like you're on your own.
Right,
because that's really helped us.
Exactly.
Knowing we've been through similar upbringing, and we can have empathy for what each other's gone through. So yeah. That's definitely helped, just talking about it and not feeling on your own. So yeah, connecting people, I suppose that's what we'd like to do. Bring awareness and connect people for healing.
Definitely don't hold it in. Again, like on that point, find someone to talk to. It doesn't have to be a psychologist. It can just be a friend. What's the point of your friend if you can't share what's the most important to you in your life? That's what you do with a friend, is you share what's important to you. So find those people you can talk to. Don't keep it bottled up. Don't keep it bottled up. It'll kill you. Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, very, very good points. Very, very, very good points. Interesting what you said about that's what a friend is supposed to be, someone that you can share those deep things with. And that's not who our friends were as witnesses. That was not the concept of a friend.
Yeah.
As a witness, your friends were, they were kind of accountability partners to keep
Yeah.
you in.
Yeah.
So anything
Your
that you
friends want
told
to
them,
bring out the best in you and
Yeah.
help you. And
Yeah.
but you didn't get that. No. Well, this
No.
is what we found through each other. That we're just.
Yeah, definitely. I saw a meme the other day that made me think of what we're saying right now. It said, "Don't break my wings and then tell me to fly."
Yeah.
That's like the JWs. Like you don't get those friends that are gonna break your wings and then tell you to fly.
Come
That switch up who you're talking to, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. Really great point. Also, a great point you said about grieving, because you're right. We didn't live as witnesses. We existed, but we didn't live. So
We were
there's
kept
a lot that
busy.
people missed out on. Yeah, kept
Yeah.
busy. Yeah. They just keep you in the motion, but you don't actually live. You don't really experience life. So yeah, it is important to just grieve those years, those opportunities that you lost.
Yeah.
But in grieving it, it doesn't mean that it's lost forever. It doesn't mean you can't move on and move upwards. You can,
Yeah.
but you just gotta gotta go through that process of being able to move forward from that. And
Take the
part of
time to
that
heal,
is,
right?
take the time to heal.
heal.
For sure. Yeah.
And have some fun.
Oh my God, yeah.
Have
Yes.
some fun. I mean, that's what's kept me going all these years, by having some fun. So yeah, that's what I would say. Go out and just do something that excites you once a month and makes you feel alive. That's what I would say. Yeah.
That's great advice right there. Yeah. Once a month. Do something that
Definitely.
makes you feel alive.
At least once a month.
Get out of the ordinary, out of the
Climb a
the loop.
mountain, go do some
Just
fishing,
do
or
something different.
see nature. That's another thing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that has been the biggest healing for us. Is being out in nature. I got myself an allotment, which is a little bit of land, because all the houses in the UK are so small, so you can't grow a lot in your garden unless you're a millionaire. So I've got this little bit of land, and I've got 3 chickens, and I'm growing our own food, and we get out on lots of walks. I think that is the best healing.
Yeah.
For us, it's working wonders as well, isn't it?
Yeah, enjoying the little things, taking the time to enjoy them, and like for us, definitely both of us, nature's where we found our peace. Even as kids, that's something that we share in common. Even as kids, like nature, like for me, you going out in the fields or me going out into the woods, it's the only peace we had. There was no peace in the houses we grew up in. So for us, like even as kids, nature was our refuge as well. Like, where I talk about where I was safe with some of my non-JW family when I was growing up, and that was always deeply in nature, like out in the middle of the woods, and so those things are always connected for me. And nature brings a lot of peace for me, a lot of peace.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Yeah, something about just being out and.
Well, plus where you live, man, out in Washington.
Oh yeah.
Dude,
we got a lot out of here. A lot
of I was stationed. Yeah, I used to live out there for years, man. It's I swear it's one of the most beautiful places to be. Like it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing out there.
Yes.
Yeah, and one day I'm gonna bring her out there. We'll definitely come up and see you, man. But yeah, I need to get her out to Washington, like just see the Cascades, the Olympics, all of it. Like, you can't beat it. It's amazing.
For sure. Yeah. You got to bring her out here. I'll take you guys to some of the good eating spots we have out here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I have some serious good food out there, man. Yeah.
Plus the microbreweries out there. That's pretty good too. Is that still big out near Seattle? I'm assuming it's been years since I've been there.
A little bit. It's now switched to more like coffee stuff, but
oh really? Okay.
Some good breweries out here. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, shoot, yeah. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Thank you for telling your story. You guys, do you have any last words you want to leave the audience with?
Anything else that we wanted to add?
Well, it's almost like information overload. Like there's so many more directions we could go. We actually been discussing this for the last few days of like how much to share. And it's, yeah, like I think we hit I think the biggest things for us is probably going to be some of the mental awareness issues of like the shunning, the abandonment. Also, like because of the extremes we grew up with, we have, you know, more addictive personalities at times. It's easy to, like, it's just one of those side effects of the abusive past and complex
That is a
PTSD.
really good point, actually. And I noticed a lot of current witnesses and ex-witnesses, yeah,
Yes.
they have that addictive personality.
Yep.
So
With
yeah, very,
everything.
very
Yeah.
interesting point. Very,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
interesting point.
Yeah. That,
Yeah,
yeah. To a
we
point.
gotta do another show. We gotta do another show again.
Oh, but that's what I mean. Dude, that's what I'm saying, man. There's so much to cover.
On addictive and extreme.
Hey, we could go down huge rabbit holes, and like I could share some like research that we've done and some readings. Like, there's so much stuff we could discuss to really put some good information out there to help some people, man.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Well, thank you
Yeah.
guys for coming on for this one. And yeah, let's come back and do some more, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great, brother.
So hopefully you guys enjoyed that interview. Thanks again to Will and Vicky for coming on and sharing your story and talking about some of these things that you went through. You know, these are the type of things that really, really need to be exposed, because this side of the Watchtower, you know, doesn't get shown to the public. Nobody talks about this, and the Jehovah's Witnesses like to turn a blind eye to it. But this stuff is going on. It's going on right now. And as I said before, it's going on worldwide. So yeah, thanks again for coming on. Thank you to all of you for watching. Stay tuned for the next one. And take it easy on yourself. Peace.